live here on Facebook. Thanks so much for joining us. We're with Eric Caswell, and he's going to talk to us a little bit about driving tips this summer. It is the deadliest time of the year for teen drivers, and the next 100 days are really important to remember good driving tips. A lot of teen drivers head out. They're going on joy rides versus actually finding a destination to go to. They're also out there, at night longer. They're with their friends over the summer. We're going to hold off 1 second while we go live on TV. Yeah, Walt, over the next 100 days, AAA says it is the deadliest time of the year from Memorial Day to Labor Day. And that's because teens are out there, going on their joy rides versus actually going to specific destinations. They're also out later at night, and they're with all of their friends. Now, on average, is about 10 people die a day through the summer months. It's a 14% increase from the rest of the year, really. We're here with A1 General Manager Eric Caswell. Thanks so much for joining us. He's got some good tips for us on what we can do even as parents to help our teens. Why is it so important for parents to get involved?
Well, ultimately, your mom and dad. As far as the parents are concerned, they're going to want to stay on top of the kids. In any driving that they do together, make sure that they're still teaching. Driving is a practicable skill. The only way that we get any good at it and stay any good at it is by continuing to work at it, continuing to stay on top of our A game. For parents, I'd recommend hitting the DMV, every year. Pick up a copy of the driving handbook. You can even get it online now. You don't even have to go to a local field office anymore. And then, when you get out with your kids and you are driving, correct their mistakes. Used to be the old practice makes perfect. I would say perfect practice makes perfect.
Right.
So if they stay on top of the situation, they reinforce those good skills. Hopefully the kids then, when they're out on their own, will continue to, utilize the good skills.
And of course, we were talking about earlier, if you're going to the grocery store, you're going to the post office, whatever it is, that's a small amount of time your kids can at least utilize to get a little bit better on the roadway. Summer's a fun time, and we want to make sure your kids are, of course, safe. Right. Definitely.
All right, here you go. Talk here.
All right, thank you so much for standing by Facebook Live. We just went on our live television hit here, and now we're talking with Eric Caswell. I mean, we've been going through a lot of things today, just a little bit about, what it takes to be a good driver. A lot of us can relate to seeing people on the roadways. I mean, goodness, people are doing their makeup. People are, what have you seen? What are the craziest things, even as a teacher, instructor, that you're looking at kids and you're saying, what are you doing? Where did you learn that?
I'll tell you the craziest thing I ever saw. I used to live in North Sacramento, and I would come in on Business 80 into the downtown every day. And every morning I would pass a guy that was eating a bowl of cereal with a newspaper over the steering wheel on the freeway. So, yeah, really it runs the gamut of eating cereal, putting on the makeup, utilizing your phone. We were talking earlier about, having a cup of coffee or a Jamba Juice in the car.
Yeah.
All of that is going to take away from your ability to focus solely on driving.
Right.
And driving is, again, it's multitasking defined. So you really need to put 100% effort into your driving 100% of the time.
So what is one of the things, like the biggest mistake you find teens making?
I think overall, the biggest issue with teens is going to be an experience. They make bad decisions based on an experience. So any experience that they can get, whether it's through a driving school, whether it's with mom and dad, grandma, grandpa, doesn't matter who it is, we need to reinforce the good habits with them. In order to do that, again, we have to be on our A game before we can get out with the kids and, put ourselves in a teaching environment as well.
And earlier we were talking a lot about different habits, things like on the roadway that people even in their adult years forget about, things like blind spots. Let's talk a little bit about those regular driving skills that you should and always remember that people are just like not doing anymore.
Well, the biggest things right off the bat would be, obeying the rules of the road. The laws are out there for a reason, and they are designed to keep us safe, and they are designed to keep us alive. Along with that, then, there are a couple of major points that you would want to focus on. We talked about your safety distances, making sure that you have a safety cushion between you and the car in front of you while you're moving. That's 3 to 4 seconds space. Some of us old schoolers, we remember the old 1 car length per 10 miles an hour. That's a subjective amount of space. If you drive a pickup truck and I drive a smart car, that's a lot of space, differential there in that. So we want to go 3 to 4 second space between us and the car in front of us. When we stop in traffic, we want to stop far enough back so their tires touch on the roadway. You mentioned the blind spots before we do any type of lateral movement, any type of side-to-side movement. We need to clear our blind spots. Nowadays with technology in between blind spot mirrors, and we're even using low-level radar on the vehicles nowadays, don't rely on those. Still, turn your head, look over your shoulder, and check physically. The other thing, again, is just simply paying attention to your driving while you're driving.
A big one I've noticed, and some people have even asked me about, was signaling. So a lot of people say when I signal, people just don't let me in. They're mean about it. But I mean, it is important to signal. It's the law, right?
Right, yeah. Turn signals are mandatory. They are not optional. Turn signals are on the car to communicate with other drivers. I understand you're gonna find that knucklehead every once in a while that's going to speed up when you turn your turn signal on. But it's been my experience that most people will, if they do react, they're usually getting out of the way. Maybe they change spots with you as you're making the lane change. Maybe they slow down. Sometimes they will speed up to go by you, which allows them to for you to drop in behind them, ultimately get the turn signals on, let everybody know what you're doing and what you're planning to do. And the other thing with the turn signals is they don't give you the right of way. You need to look at it as you're asking permission to go ahead and drop on over into that next lane.
And what do you find to be some of the biggest infractions that teen drivers are getting? Is it tickets? Is it, not stopping at stoplights? What are some of the bigger ones?
Typically with the kids, first right off the bat, it's speed. We have speed limits for a reason. We need to, abide by them as far as that goes. The second thing then would be, again, distractions. The first year they are not allowed to carry passengers unless they have another licensed driver in the vehicle with them that's 25 or older. So, as parents, you want to stay on top of that, make sure that they're not driving their friends around for that first year, because they can get into trouble, they can lose their license, they can lose their car. They don't want to be in that situation. You don't want your child in that situation. Along with that too, even after that first year and they do have that little bit of experience under their belt, be mindful of where the kids are going and what they're doing. You'd mentioned earlier the kind of joyriding and driving around where they don't have a set destination. They're out goofing around, they're having a good time, and that again is distracting them, the driver, as far as that goes.
That's true. Let's talk just a little bit about technology, because that has been a little bit of a game changer for people now. I mean, when we were driving or learning to drive, it wasn't an issue. We didn't have phones in the cars, but now that phones are in the cars, we have people with, the dashboard, holding. Right. We have just a bunch of different things that you can do. You can talk with the Bluetooth through the speaker. So what do you guys recommend now with that kind of in play?
First of all, put the cell phones away. Okay, put them in a cup holder, put them in a side pocket on the door, put them in the glove compartment, put them either in driving mode, silent. Get rid of them. The thing about the cell phones, and we focus so much on the hands-free law, this is not the problem. The conversation is the problem. So even if you're in a situation where you're utilizing the Bluetooth on a vehicle and you're not holding your phone, you're paying more attention to that conversation that you're having with a person that's not in that vehicle, that doesn't know what's going on around you, and that becomes a problem. If you and I are driving down the road and we come into a sticky situation, you as a passenger usually go, you know what, I'm going to quiet down here and let you deal with this. If we're talking on the phone, you have no idea what's going on. I keep driving. I don't change my habits at all at that point in time, even though I should be slowing it down and paying more attention because there's an accident or there's road work. So really avoid the conversations as much as possible. Stay off of the cell phones.
All right, and real quick, let's just go through a couple things within the car that we got to remember to do before we, head out the door or head out on the road.
Well, the big thing's going to be, making yourself comfortable, for lack of a better term. You're going to want to get into a situation where you have your seat adjusted, you have your steering wheel adjusted, you adjust your mirrors before you head on out. Obviously, get the seatbelt buckled before you start the car, and then try to have all of that stuff set so you're not having to fidget with it while you're out on the roadway. Having the stereo set at a good level before you head on out again, so you're not having to take your hands off the wheel, you're not having to take your eyes off the road in order to fidget with any of the extra equipment on the vehicle.
Okay, and we were talking earlier about proper attire to wear. Yeah,
absolutely. You want to avoid things like flip-flops over the summer, especially the cheap ones from the drugstores, because they'll have a tendency to fold over under the the gas pedal, the brake pedal. You want to make sure that you have a shoe or a sandal that's got both closed toe on it and a heel, so that if you are in an emergency situation, you do slam on that brake pedal, your foot doesn't go sliding right on out of that sandal.
Right, that's definitely scary,
right.
Especially when things rolling around your car even could get under there, I'm
right.
sure.
Yep.
All right, well, thank you so much. I mean, we've learned so much already about driving in general and some of the new things that people are experiencing. You did mention, it doesn't take much to just go online and get a new handbook because they're always issued every year, right?
Right, yeah, the DMV puts them out every year, and they do change it up every year, so you're not reading the same thing year after year after year. And along with it too, for those of us that have been driving for a while, it's just a quick refresher. You're talking about maybe 10 or 15 minutes a year. It's not very much time just to make sure that you are, putting your A game out while you're out there.
What are a couple things that you've noticed that have changed maybe that are a little different than some of the years past?
As far as the handbooks are
right,
concerned, well, they just change up the information that's in there. Driving is a lot of information. It's a lot of detail. So they can't possibly put together a booklet that's got everything in it every year all the time, because it'd be that thick versus a manual, right, as far as that goes. So really, you just get in there, you'll notice things will change from year to year. Plus they update the laws every year for you too, so those are typically right at the front of the handbook. So you're staying abreast and informed of what's new this year as far as roadway laws and stuff are concerned.
Awesome. All right, well, Eric Caswell with A1 Driving School, all the good tips. And of course, with the driving, a lot of students have to actually have driving school along with the 50 hours. Is that correct?
Yeah, teenagers, anybody under 18 years old have to do 6 hours with the driving school. Then they have to do an additional 50 with mom and dad. Mom and dad then sign off on the permit when they go down to the DMV that they've done their extra time, and then they're eligible to get their what they call their provisional license. Yes, ma'am.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you so much, Facebook Live, for watching our tips. Of course, the 100 deadliest days of summer for teen driving, but you can keep it safe by following